Tonight, we travel to a place where the beds are itchy, the beer is warm, and the scent of humanity never quite leaves. Welcome to the inn. You've been walking for hours, maybe days. Your boots are stiff with dried mud and worse. Your tunic is sticking to your back. Your shoulders ache from the weight of your satchel, which contains exactly 2 stale oatcakes, a nearly empty flask of weak ale, and a piece of cheese that's more philosophical concept than food at this point. The road behind you is crooked and rutted. The last village you passed was little more than a gathering of chickens, a boy who threw a pebble at you, and a woman selling boiled roots that smelled like regret. But now, as twilight settles over the countryside like a tired breath, you see it. The inn. It stands crooked, slightly hunched, like it too has spent a lifetime being rained on and yelled at. Its thatched roof slouches to one side. A single window flickers with candlelight. The wooden sign swings overhead with a gentle creak, an image of a badly painted fox, or perhaps a dog, biting what might be a sausage. The words have long since faded, but none of that matters. You're here. You made it. And you're going inside. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, leave a comment with your location and what time it is where you are. I love seeing where you're all tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The door doesn't open so much as surrender. Its hinges groan in protest, not from the effort, but from indignation. Another guest, another muddy pair of boots, another sigh. The moment you step across the threshold, the world changes. The smell hits you first. It's not a single smell, it's a tapestry, a rich, layered bouquet of centuries-old sweat, rotting rushes on the floor, boiled cabbage, spilt ale, smoke from a dozen hearths, and something faintly sour, like old onions, or perhaps feet. Possibly both. You breathe through your mouth. It doesn't help. The inn's common room is low-ceilinged and dim. The beams above you are thick with soot. A fire crackles in the hearth, but it offers little warmth. The smoke curls up, then sideways, then down. As if unsure of its place in the hierarchy of discomfort, you see the innkeeper, a squat, round man with a beard that may be storing secrets. He nods in your direction but says nothing. His attention returns to the stew pot he's stirring, which emits a smell that can only be described as meaty despair. In the corner, a dog snores, or perhaps it's a man. Hard to tell. Both are missing a boot. A group of travelers huddle at a table, faces red from drink, laughing at a joke no one else would understand. One of them sneezes. No one blesses him. You approach the counter. You don't need to speak. You simply look at the innkeeper. He looks at you. He sees the mud, the fatigue, the coins trembling in your palm. He nods again. A room is arranged. No contract, no key. Just a muttered upstairs, third on the right, mind the hole. The staircase groans like it remembers better days. It also remembers better guests. Each step creaks, then whines, then accepts your weight with a reluctant sigh. As you reach the landing, you pass a hallway where someone is singing, badly, in Latin. With hiccups, you find your door. It doesn't close properly. The latch is broken, but it stays shut if you lean your bag against it, which you do. And now, you are alone. Or at least you think you are. The room is small, smaller than you imagined. It's roughly the size of a cupboard, but less organized. A straw holly mattress lies on a raised wooden platform. The straw, you realize, is not fresh. It has had visitors, mice, perhaps, certainly fleas. The blanket is coarse and heavy, smells faintly of beer and goat. There is no pillow, but there is a lump in the straw near one end. You decide not to investigate. The window is small, shuttered, and nailed shut. It rattles anyway. A candle burns low on a wooden stool. The wax has dripped into shapes that resemble minor demons. You sit. The stool wobbles. You lie down. The bed wheezes. Somewhere beneath the mattress something scurries. You decide to be very still. The air is thick. It clings to you. It smells of closed spaces, of too many breaths taken without enough distance between them, of wet boots and dry despair, of smoke, stew, and unwashed humanity. But you're too tired to care. You close your eyes. The noises of the inn drift up through the floorboards. A bowl crashing, laughter, a door slamming, someone yelling something about chickens. A lute plays a single sour note, then gives up. You drift between waking and sleep. And as the candle flickers lower and the mattress warms slightly under you, and the scent of someone else's life fades into your own, you think, at least it's not raining. There's something about trying to fall asleep in a place where silence never fully arrives. You shift your weight on the straw-filled mattress. The sound it makes is somewhere between a crunch and a wheeze. You wonder if the straw is simply tired of being straw, if perhaps it once dreamed of being hay for noble horses. Instead, it ended up here, in a bed, where people sigh into it nightly and scratch at the things that live inside. The blanket, still heavy and smelling of someone else's sweat, doesn't help. You pull it tighter anyway, mostly to convince yourself that you're the one in control. You are not, because now you start to hear it. The inn is alive. At first, it's subtle, a faint scratching, somewhere under the floorboards, or behind the walls, or, most troublingly, beneath your bed. Something tiny with claws is going about its night. A rat, probably. A family of them, almost certainly. They scratch and nibble and shuffle around like this is their nightly meeting place, and you're the uninvited guest who has taken over the conference room. You try to ignore it. You shift. The bed creaks like an old man with a grudge. The scratching pauses, then resumes, louder. You wonder if medieval rats hold grudges. Then footsteps. Not near your room, not yet. They begin far below, in the common room. You can hear the thump of a mug being set down, a muttered curse, a chair scraping. Then the slow, heavy creak of someone climbing the stairs. One step at a time. Each board gives a different voice. Some groan, some snap. One just makes a sound like an exhausted sigh. Whoever it is, they're in no hurry. Your room has no lock, just your satchel, leaning against the door, trying its best to act like a fortress. The footsteps get closer. The hall outside your room creaks in response, a muffled cough, a long pause. You hold your breath, then the person shuffles past your door. The wood moans softly. A door opens, then closes. A latch clicks. You exhale. You are still alone, as far as you know. Just as your eyes flutter shut and your body begins to unclench, it arrives. The snore, it starts low, a bass note from the depths of a nearby room or possibly from the floor below. It vibrates through the walls like a sermon of suffering. And just when you think it's hit its peak, another joins in from a different direction. Now you have stereo snoring. One wheezes on the inhale, the other grumbles on the exhale. Together they perform a duet called "You're Not Sleeping Tonight." You pull the blanket tighter, as if it will insulate you from sound. It will not. Somewhere down the hall, a door slams. Then laughter. Drunken, wheezy, regret-shaped laughter. A voice belts out a song, words slurred, pitch uncertain. It's either an old drinking song or a very personal prayer to a deity named Ale. There's a loud thud, followed by silence. Then hiccups. You hear the sound of someone trying to pee into a bucket and missing. You pray it wasn't your bucket. Just as you begin to sink into a light doze, the sound comes. A heavy thump. You sit upright. Was it in the hallway, the roof, under the bed? Another thump, slower, as if someone dropped a body part by part. You freeze. It stops. For now, you stare into the darkness. You consider lighting the candle again, but you don't want to see anything you might regret seeing. You lie back down. The mattress hisses. You whisper to it, "Not now." Oddly, you begin to hear singing. Not loud, not joyful, more like a hum wrapped in linen. It drifts through the cracks in the walls, barely formed words tumbling along like dust. It might be a lullaby. It might be someone slowly going mad. The difference at this hour is academic. You try to hum along. It helps, briefly. Then the singing stops, leaving you with only your own breath, and the snoring, and the scratching, and the memory of the thump. The worst sound is the one inside your head, the whispering voice reminding you that the cheese in your satchel may have gone sentient. The worry that tomorrow you'll have to eat the stew again. The question of whether medieval beds ever catch fire from sheer despair. You begin to list smells you encountered today. A damp horse, ale-soaked socks, someone's breath that could curdle milk, boiled cabbage, a stew, which is its own category. Own yourself. You reach 10, then 20. You stop at wet dog that's also on fire. The window is nailed shut, but it creaks. Just once, but loud enough to suggest it disagrees with the entire concept of sleep. You sigh. You roll over. The mattress lets out a sound that could be a word. He hoped it wasn't. You lie there in the dark. The air is thick with the breath of 100 other guests, past and present. The bed smells like stories no one should tell. The sounds continue, snoring, scratching, dripping, laughing, shifting. But eventually something strange happens. You stop noticing them. They become part of the atmosphere, part of the rhythm, and without realizing it, your eyes close, your body sinks. You're not comfortable, but you're still. And stillness is the first step to sleep. You drift. The inn hums. And outside, the stars do what stars do, glow quietly, without apology. You're half asleep when it hits you. Not a sound this time. Not a rat. Not a lute. A need. A biological inevitability. Nature calls, and in medieval times, it doesn't wait politely outside with a clipboard and a smile. It barges in like a tax collector with no sense of timing. You shift under the heavy, itchy blanket and groan softly. You are just starting to relax, just beginning to blend into the unpleasant comfort of your surroundings. But now, your body has remembered something. And that something is, there is no toilet. Not really. Not the kind with a flush. Not the kind with privacy. Not the kind you leave feeling better about yourself. Tonight, it's the chamber pot. You sit up slowly, limbs complaining. In the dim candlelight, you scan the room. There it is, in the corner, under a stool, a crude ceramic vessel. The communal chamber pot. It's shaped like a bowl that gave up. The rim is chipped. There's something dried on the side. You tell yourself it's soup. It is not soup. You hold your breath as you approach. You lift the lid, if there even was one. No, wait, that's not a lid. That's just a very unfortunate hat someone left behind. The smell wafts up. It is complex. An orchestra of previous guests, performed in the key of no. You wonder how recently it was emptied. Then you wonder if it ever has been. You ask yourself deep philosophical questions, such as, is it better to go here or risk the dark outside? Is dignity a real thing or just a story we tell ourselves? You try to remember the last time you had privacy. You can. You position yourself over the pot. You try not to make eye contact with anything or anyone. Even the candle looks away. There's no seat, of course not. There's barely balance. You try to be quiet. You fail. Everything echoes. The ceramic amplifies the sound like it's proud of you. The floor creaks under your shifting weight. Your knees crack. Something behind the wall chitters in protest. You begin to suspect the pot has developed a personality, one of judgment. You finish, but now what? There's no flush, no water, no lavender-scented wipe, no subtle escape. You shuffle the pot back under the stool with a toe and a prayer. You consider covering it with something. There's a towel hanging from a nail. You smell it. You put it back. You sit on the bed. You stare at the wall. The smell now feels like a member of the family. You lie down. You realize your bed is downwind. You flip your blanket in hopes it will shield you. It does not. You begin to imagine the other option. Outside, you saw the outhouse when you arrived. Just past the stable, a tilted wooden box surrounded by weeds and mystery. But to get there you'd need to leave your room, walk down the creaky hallway, past the snoring drunkard, open the back door without waking the dog or man or hybrid entity sleeping by it, cross the cold yard barefoot in the dark, hope the stable boy isn't there with his pipe and ghost stories, pray no one else is already in there, and all this just to sit over a splintered hole filled with collective despair. You decide, no. The pot wins. Tonight, at least. You start to wonder how many others in this very room have faced the same dilemma. How many travelers sat where you sat, stared into the same chipped bowl of regret, had the same moment of hesitation followed by resignation. You're part of a lineage now, not one you'll celebrate, but one you feel bonded with. There is comfort in shared misery, or at least a kind of numbness. You try to breathe shallowly. You turn your face to the wall. You bury your nose in the blanket. Bad idea. The blanket has its own story, and it's not better. You wonder how far you are from the candle. Could you? No, you're not burning the chamber pot, not yet, but you do make a mental note. Tomorrow, find the stable, find the river, find something, anything, that doesn't smell like medieval biography. Eventually, your senses dull. Your body, exhausted from walking, from eating something that was probably once a cabbage, from carrying its own complaints for 12 hours, begins to shut down. The chamber pot is still there. It still smells like a punishment, but your brain files it away. Under not tonight. The bed still creaks. The window still rattles. The blanket still clings with the memory of other people's dreams. But slowly, despite it all, sleep comes, not because it's comfortable, but because discomfort too can become a kind of lullaby. As you drift, you wonder, what if someone enters the room? What if they think the pot is empty? What if they... You stop. You decide some thoughts are best left unfinished. You close your eyes. The inn exhales. And somewhere, not far away, another pot is being used. You smile, because at least it's not yours. Tonight, the morning finds you before you find it. There is no gentle sunrise through embroidered curtains, no birdsong, no aroma of sizzling bacon or freshly brewed coffee. In this place, morning slaps you awake with a cough from the hallway, a chamber pot tipping somewhere nearby, and the familiar low groan of the inn settling into its own aching bones. You don't so much wake up as surrender to consciousness. The bed, which last night felt like sleeping on a bundle of sad farming equipment, now feels worse. One arm is asleep, the other is itchy. You don't know why, and you're not going to investigate. You sit up slowly. The pot is still there. You nod at it respectfully. It won. The air hasn't improved. If anything, it's warmer now. Stale warmth. The kind that suggests the breath of a dozen people still lingers in the walls. The candle stub has died, leaving only a tiny curl of wax, like a fossil of last night's hope. You blink at the walls. They haven't changed. Neither has the smell. In fact, you realize with some awe, it has become layered. Morning has added a new scent to the bouquet, something resembling cooked grain, burnt wood, and desperation. Your stomach growls. You remember you're hungry. You also remember where you are. You gather your things, which takes 5 seconds since you own almost nothing, and head for the stairs. The hallway is already full of shuffling, people emerging from rooms that look like regrets in doorframe form. Some are still buttoning tunics. One man is muttering to himself. A child cries in a language that consists only of vowels and fury. The stairs creak louder this morning. They're awake too. The bottom, the common room awaits. Same fire, same smoke, same soot on the ceiling that gives you the vague impression the building has survived a minor siege. But now something is different. There's a line, and at the end of it, a pause. You step forward slowly. The innkeeper, same man, same beard, now with a new stain on his tunic, stands behind a steaming cauldron. It bubbles ominously. A ladle dips in. A wooden bowl emerges. Its contents are a sort of porridge, or maybe soup. It has a consistency somewhere between clay and apology. You're handed the bowl. No spoon. You nod. This is the ritual. You sit at a long, low bench, elbow to elbow with strangers who look like they've each lived through their own novella of discomfort. No one talks. One man sneezes. Another mutters something about last week's carrots. Someone across from you stares into his bowl like it has betrayed him. You examine your own breakfast. It has texture. It has heat. It has lumps. One of them might be a bean. One of them might be alive. You begin to eat. There's no salt. There's never salt. There is flavor, technically, but it's the flavor of boiling, a deep, committed boil, the kind that extracts not just nutrients, but any trace of optimism from the ingredients. You chew, or rather, press the mush to the roof of your mouth until it gives up and slides down your throat. Occasionally you get a hard bit, grain, dirt, unmilked stone. You don't ask. You chew carefully. Every bite is a gamble. Every swallow, a negotiation with your past decisions. Alongside the bowl, you've been given a slice of bread. It is not fresh. It is not soft. It may not be bread. It is a brownish slab that feels heavier than it looks. The crust could deflect arrows. The interior has the density of a small meteorite. You tap it on the table. It responds with a dull thunk. You take a bite. Your jaw protests. Your teeth file a complaint. You chew, and eventually your mouth gives up and calls it done. You swallow. The bread lands in your stomach with a quiet thud. Breakfast continues. You're handed a cup. It contains beer, not the cheerful kind with bubbles and joy. This is morning beer, peasant beer, thick, cloudy, vaguely sour. It tastes like the memory of grain mixed with the spirit of wet wood. It is room temperature, which, in this room, is barely warmer than regret. You drink because the water isn't safe, because your mouth is dry, because you need something to help the bread descend. You drink again, and for a moment, a brief, fragile moment, you feel human. Then someone burps beside you, and the spell breaks. People eat quickly. There are no seconds. The stew pot never gets scraped clean, it simply gets refilled with more ingredients and more mystery, endlessly. It is both food and relic. The bench empties. New travelers replace the old. Everyone is on their way to somewhere. Fields, markets, forests, wars. You sit for a moment longer. The bowl is empty. The bread is gone. The beer reluctantly finished. You sigh. Your body has food, of a sort. And now it is time to face the day. You rise. Your knees crack. Your back makes a sound that may be a warning. You gather your satchel. The bread from last night is still in it. Still hard, still dependable. You decide to keep it. Not because it's food, but because it could be used as a weapon. The innkeeper grunts at you as you pass. You grunt back. It's a language. As you open the door to the yard, a new smell greets you. It is fresh. It is sharp. It is unmistakably goat. There is in fact a goat right outside. It looks at you as if to say, "This is my world." You just smell it. You nod. You understand. You step outside, and the inn exhales behind you. You were never supposed to have the room to yourself. You forgot that, didn't you? For a moment last night, as you lay down on your lumpy straw mattress, with only a rat or two and the chamber pot for company, you might have thought the worst was over. But now it's dusk again. And tonight, you're not alone. Not even close. It begins with a knock. Not a polite knock, not a question. A thud. Then a voice from the hallway, slurred, casual, with the confidence of someone who owns nothing and fears less. Guess I'm in here now. The door opens, no key, no lock, and in steps a man with a sack, a grin, and the body odor of someone who's wrestled a pig and lost. You blink. He nods. Roomy. You do not respond. Another voice chimes in behind him. I call the corner, and suddenly there are 3 of you. Then 4. The room begins to feel small. The air begins to feel personal. There is one bed, the one you slept in last night. There is also a pile of hay in the corner. Someone unrolls a blanket on the floor, careful to avoid the mysterious puddle. You're still on the bed. You look at the newcomer. They look at you. One of them raises an eyebrow. He doesn't speak, but the meaning is clear. We're all friends here, right? You nod slowly. You are not friends. You are survivors. It builds quickly. One man removes his boots. The air folds in on itself. You try to remain calm. You focus on the ceiling. You focus on your breath. You try not to imagine the bacteria, now actively introducing themselves to your lungs. Someone belches. Another sneezes. A third man, who has yet to say anything, emits a sound that can only be described as a wet sigh. You bury your nose in your sleeve. It smells like regret and barley. You try the blanket. No improvement. You resign yourself to the ambience. It's not even fully dark when the snoring starts. It's early. No one has laid down yet. And yet, somehow, one of them is already snoring. Eyes open, staring at the ceiling, breathing like a blacksmith's bellows. The others aren't far behind. One clears his throat every 3 minutes, a deep theatrical clearing, like he's preparing for a speech that never comes. Another hums. Not a tune, just a noise. A low, vibrating tone with no melody, no purpose, just existence. You lie still, listening, cataloging, waiting. There is only one chamber pot. You realize this as someone lifts it with a casual grunt. You hear things. You hear more things. You pretend to sleep. You do not move. The pot is returned. Someone mutters, sorry, though it's unclear for what. You decide forgiveness is possible, but not tonight. Every group has one. The man who can't let silence settle. Tonight, it's the one on the floor near your feet. He speaks softly, but constantly. Did I ever tell you about the time I met a bishop in a tavern? Thought he was a goat. Turned out he was just drunk. Still blessed me. No one replies. He continues anyway. I once saw a chicken eat a coin. Swallowed it right down. Thought it was grain. Never did find that coin again. I think about that chicken sometimes. Still no reply. You think about the chicken too. It always happens. At some ungodly hour, one of them startles awake. He gasps, shouts something about Margaret, then sits up, confused. You pretend to be asleep. He mumbles, fumbles, then lies back down on someone else's blanket. The other man doesn't even move. Either he's a heavy sleeper or he's accepted defeat. The talker whispers, Margaret again, eh? A chuckle, then silence. Moment. Somehow, against all odds, there's a mosquito. It wasn't here before. Now it's here, and it wants you, is near your ear. He swat. It moves. It waits. Then it returns. It has one purpose, one target. You accept your fate. You are the inn's official midnight snack. Sleep will not come. Your body is tired. Your mind is a festival. You count snores. You track smells. You name each noise. Floor creak, Bernard. Blanket rustle. Sudden fart, Reginald. You mentally write a will. You wonder if you should sleep outside. Then you hear wolves. You decide inside is fine. Eventually the room quiets. It doesn't stay that way, but for a moment it softens. A snore turns to breath. The hum quiets. The throat clears no more. And you lie there, blinking into the darkness, wrapped in the thick air of shared humanity, and slowly you drift, not into sleep exactly, but into surrender. You belong to the night now, and to the strangers who snore beside you. No one told you today was laundry day. Then again, no one tells you anything at this inn. You discover it the same way everyone else does, by smell. Because if yesterday's air was a blend of smoke, sweat, and regret, today it's all that, plus something damp, earthy, and vaguely sheepish. You know that smell. You've worn it. You're still wearing it. It's the smell of wool that's been wet too long, of linen that's tried its best, of fabric clinging to memory, mildew, and a last trace of goat. You step into the courtyard and realize the entire inn is doing laundry, or rather trying to. There is no laundry room. There is no soap, not in the sense you're imagining. There is a large wooden trough. There is a pile of clothes beside it, and there is a woman, possibly the innkeeper's wife, possibly just someone who has given up on boundaries, stirring the contents of the trough with a stick. You watch as a tunic disappears into the cloudy water and resurfaces moments later looking wetter, but not necessarily cleaner. Nearby, a man slaps his shirt against a stone, with passion, with vengeance, as if the shirt personally wronged him. It probably did. You ask what's being used. You're told ashes, lye, sometimes stale beer, occasionally mashed herbs if someone's feeling fancy. Mostly hope. Soap exists, but only for the rich, and even then, it smells like sadness and animal fat. You spot someone rubbing a pair of hose with what looks like damp moss and a guilty expression. You decide not to ask. You also decide not to let anyone touch your sock. You wonder where everything will dry. Then you look up. Clothes are everywhere. Draped over fences, slung on branches, pinned between rocks, hanging from windows. A shirt waves from the inn's chimney like a flag of surrender. The sky is overcast, the wind is minimal, the humidity is committed. Nothing is going to dry today, but everyone pretends it will. That's how laundry day works. You hesitate, but your tunic smells like last week's porridge. Your hose are crunchy. Your underthings have developed texture. You find a bucket. You find a spot at the trough. You plunge your tunic into the water and instantly regret it. The temperature is somewhere between melted snow and questionable soup. You scrub, you twist, you slap the fabric against a rock and feel your wrists complain. Someone beside you compliments your technique. You nod solemnly, as if you were trained by monks. You were not. You are just desperate. As the day wears on, The courtyard becomes a sauna of scents. Wet wool, damp leather, oiled socks. The aroma clings to you. It follows you. It becomes you. You try not to breathe through your nose. You fail. You try to distance yourself from your own shirt. You fail harder. You notice everyone else smells the same. And somehow that makes it worse. Laundry day is also mending day. People squat on stones, darning socks, stitching tunics, patching holes with whatever fabric they can find, old rags, discarded belts, sometimes bark. A man proudly shows off a pair of breeches reinforced with pages from a discarded psalter. You nod, impressed. You don't sit. The ground is wet. The bench is taken. You lean against the wall and try to convince yourself that dampness builds character. It does not. Someone somewhere suggests hanging the clothes near the fire. Good idea. Until they forget them there. The tunic begins to smoke. Someone swears. It is flung outside into a puddle. The cycle continues. Another man wrings his socks with such force they audibly complain. You wonder if socks can develop trauma. You wonder if yours already have. The sun peeks out. A moment of hope. Everyone stares at it like it's a miracle. You hold up your still dripping tunic. You shake it. You slap it over a rock. You spread your arms as if presenting a sacrifice to the gods of dry linen. The sun disappears. You curse quietly in your mind. Out loud, you smile. You are among others. Your suffering must be polite. By late afternoon, most things are less wet, not dry, just advanced in the journey. People gather their clothes, still damp, and wear them anyway. You do too. Your tunic slaps against your back like a cold fish. Your hose cling like judgment. Your shoes squish. You walk with the solemn dignity of a person who has accepted that comfort is an illusion. The smell? Still here. Only now it's wetter. The sun vanishes again. The breeze does not return. People file inside, carrying buckets, hanging socks over chairs, draping shirts near the hearth. You sit in a corner, clothes steaming faintly, surrounded by others doing the same. No one speaks. The fire crackles. Someone sneezes, and the room begins to smell like wet dog, and wool, and sweat, and something unspoken. You close your eyes. You exhale. Laundry is done, but the smell, it stays. Evening at the inn doesn't arrive. It unfolds like a stained curtain, heavy with old stories and spilled ale. The daylight doesn't vanish, it simply gives up. The candles are lit, the hearth is poked until the fire remembers its job, and the benches fill with people who've spent the day hauling things, mending things, or pretending to do both. The smell in the common room is equal parts burnt meat, damp wool, sour beer, and history. Not the kind you read in books, the kind that's muttered over mugs. Tonight, you don't speak. You listen. You find a seat at the edge of the room. Not too close to the fire, that's for the storytellers and the well-liked. Not too far in the corner, that's for the truly suspicious, or those who owe someone money. You're in the middle, the best place for eavesdropping. Your cup of beer is half full. The warmth of the fire licks your shins, and around you, a symphony of tales begins to play. You don't need to ask questions. You only need ears. She turned my cousin into a goat. Swear on my mother's teeth. This declaration is made by a man whose eyes refuse to focus on anything. He slams his mug down and points at no one in particular. A goat with feelings. His companion, a man with no eyebrows and an impressive overbite, nods solemnly. Happens more than you think. You sip your beer. You wonder how often goat transformation really happened. You wonder if you've eaten someone's cousin. You drink again. Two men argue about whether a particular horse can outrun a cart. One insists it can. The other claims it is the cart. The argument intensifies. Someone draws a diagram on the table using spilled beer. Eventually, they agree to disagree. Then agree to drink. Then forget they were ever speaking. You admire their process. A woman with a voice like gravel tells a story about a love affair with an elf. Had ears like soup spoons and smelled like thyme, she says, but kind, knew how to fish. No one questions it. Someone asks if elves snore. She replies, only when dreaming of mushrooms. Everyone nods. You do too. Because, at this point, it seems impolite not to. A man unrolls a piece of cloth, claims it's a map to treasure, points to a stain. This here's the swamp of silence, points to another stain. This is where I was bit by a ghost. No one asks why a ghost would bite. He buys around. No one cares. You sip and memorize the stains, just in case. Inevitably, someone sings a ballad off-key about a woman who loved a baker but married a miller, then ran off with a cooper and ended up alone with a goat. The goat appears to be a theme tonight. The chorus involves clapping. Think no one claps on beat. You find yourself humming along, not because it's good, but because it exists. In every crowd, there's someone who says nothing. Tonight, it's a man with a scar across his cheek and a mug he hasn't drunk from. He watches, listens, smiles, but only barely. You wonder if he knows more than the rest combined. You wonder if he's the only one telling the truth by telling nothing. He catches your eye, nods once. You nod back. You decide not to speak to him, because mystery, like a stew left overnight, is better undisturbed. Two women begin trading insults, not with shouting, with finesse. You smell like you married a candle and lost the divorce. Oh, darling, I'd rather share a room with fleas than share an opinion with you. Laughter erupts. The room leans in. Someone claps. The barkeep offers free beer to the winner. No one knows who won. No one cares. Everyone wins in laughter. Near midnight, when the room is sticky with smoke and stories, someone confesses to a sheep crime. Details are unclear. Whether it involved theft, impersonation, or marriage is uncertain. But the emotion is real. The group falls silent, then bursts into applause. Because in a world where truth is slippery, a weird confession is as close to religion as it gets. Eventually, voices soften. The fire dims. Half-finished mugs are abandoned. Someone snores into their porridge. Someone else leans back, eyes closed, still smiling at a story no one else heard. You remain seated, warm, slightly dizzy, not from drink, from the weight of so many lives, so many lies, so many goats. The stories aren't all true, but the laughter is. And the company, for all its smells and noises, is real. You close your eyes. You breathe. You dream of maps and sheep and soup spoon eras. Sleep hums through the room like a lullaby whispered in ale. And in the flickering light of the dying fire, the fire has burned low. The laughter has settled into mumbles. You've heard your fill of tales about haunted goats, jealous chamber pots, and men who once arm-wrestled shadows. Now the room thins. People drift up the stairs like smoke, thick with fatigue, warm with beer, and just a little sour from the day. You follow, one heavy foot at a time. Your clothes cling to you, stiff in some places, sagging in others, and now a new question rises in your mind. Should you undress before bed? The answer? No. Because in this inn, sleep is not a ritual. It's a negotiation. You've read about comfort. In stories, people slip into soft nightshirts. They brush their hair, they say prayers, light a single candle, and curl up under fresh linens as the moon gently blesses their dreams. Not here, not tonight. Here, comfort is defined by how few bed bugs you encounter, how many buttons you don't have to fight with, and how quickly you can fall asleep before your roommate sings again in his sleep. You stand beside your straw mattress and consider your options. It's a short list. First, the air is cold, not mountain cold, but damp. The kind of chill that crawls into the folds of your shirt and lingers like bad news. The fire from downstairs doesn't reach this room. The walls are stone. The breeze from the window has decided to explore your socks. Second, the room is not yours alone. There are other people here, men, strangers, at various levels of consciousness and exposure. One of them has taken off only his hat. Another is down to his linen underthings and appears instantly remorseful. The third sleeps fully clothed, boots and all, curled like a suspicious squirrel. You decide. You will not undress. This isn't a tragedy, because your clothes are not delicate. They are not silky or restrictive. They are already soft, worn from wear, soaked with travel and shaped like you. In fact, they feel more you than you do at this hour. They are slightly damp, slightly itchy, and carry the smell of smoke, wool, and old stew. But they are reliable. They are armor, not against enemies, against everything else. You lie down in your full attire, tunic, hose, undergarments, the works. Your belt is loosened, not removed. Your shoes are beside you, inverted, to discourage anything from crawling in. You fold your arms across your chest like a peasant philosopher and stare at the ceiling. It stares back, splintered and indifferent. The straw beneath you rustles. You exhale. You accept. Around you, the room breathes. One man snores. Another mutters. Someone coughs with commitment. There's a wet sniffle and a sigh that doesn't belong to anyone you can see. You don't look. You don't move. You simply exist, one warm, weary body in a pile of others, clothed, layered, human. Then comes the itch, the one that strikes the back of your knee, or somewhere lower. You know the one. It's the price of sweat, straw, and socks that haven't seen soap since last harvest. You reach, you scratch, you pretend you're the only one doing it. You are not. You hear two others scratching in the darkness. You smile, a chorus of itch, lullaby of discomfort. You begin to realize something. Sleeping in your clothes is more than practical. It's protective. The walls are thin, the floorboards shift, the window rattles. But your tunic, it stays. You are wrapped in the fabric of yesterday, stained, wrinkled, vaguely heroic. It holds your smell, your shape, your tiny, exhausted soul. You begin to love it. You vow never to remove it again. Until, of course, laundry day, which you will avoid at all costs. Someone blows out the candle. The darkness doubles. Your eyes adjust. You see outlines, boots, cloaks, slumped shoulders. You hear the faint bubbling of someone's stomach. You pull your cloak tighter. Even that smells like smoke and responsibility. You close your eyes. You let the weight of your clothes ground you. You fall asleep, not like a feather drifting gently down, but like a sack of potatoes finally dropped. As you drift, your last coherent thought arrives. If I'm attacked in the night, at least I'm already dressed. You feel oddly proud. Then you sleep. I'm still clothed, still creased, still human, and very, very tired. Sleep comes in waves, in gasps, in moments so fleeting, you're not sure if you slept or just temporarily forgot what being awake feels like. You shift on the straw mattress, trying to find a position that doesn't press against your hip like a sermon. Your tunic bunches at the shoulder. Your hose twist in a way that suggests rebellion. But none of that is the problem. No, the real problem is the pillow. It's technically a pillow. That is to say, it occupies the space where a pillow might go. But it is not soft. It is not fluffy. It is not, by any reasonable definition, welcoming. It is small, rough, lumpy in the middle, flat on the sides, and radiates the distinct energy of a stone trying very hard to pass as fabric. You adjust it. It resists. You fluff it. It does not change. You thump it with your fist. It responds with a sound that suggests geological ancestry. You wonder what it's filled with. Straw, feathers, regret. You press down on it and feel something shift, not give, as if the contents aren't softening but rearranging to protect their most angular parts. You open the corner seam slightly. You see chunks of straw, a single feather, a pebble. You close the seam. You apologize. You lie back down. You try to convince yourself it's fine. This was once luxury. Only royalty had real pillows. The common traveler may do with sacks, cloaks, or a loyal dog. You are not royalty. You do not have a dog. You have this head hammer and your own optimism, which is fading quickly. You roll onto your side. The pillow pushes back. You roll to your back. It stabs your spine. You try lying face down. You immediately regret that choice. You fold the pillow in half. Now it's taller and angrier. You push it to the edge of the mattress and rest your head on your arm. Your arm falls asleep before you do. You return to the pillow. A truce is declared. It is tense. You already know how this ends. In the morning, you'll sit up slowly. Your neck will crack like a church pew. Your shoulders will ache in places you didn't know had muscles. You will touch your pillow like a betrayed lover. And you will think, why didn't I just use my bag? Then you'll remember, your bag contains bread, hotter than the pillow, deadlier. You sigh in advance. You begin to reflect. Maybe pillows have always been bad. Maybe comfort is a myth told by rich people in castles with goose feather beds and servants to turn them. Maybe the whole idea of head support is an illusion, a cruel promise whispered into ears that only ever sleep on wood, wool, or the occasional sack of oats. You wonder if this is character building. You wonder if that's a good thing. You wonder if the man beside you who's snoring into a boot knows something you don't. Eventually your body gives up. Not wins, gives up. It decides, this will have to do. You sink just enough to let exhaustion drag you under. You don't dream, or if you do, the dream takes place entirely on a stiff incline with intermittent lumps. You do not move because motion invites awareness. Awareness invites discomfort, and discomfort is always awake. Morning comes. Someone coughs. The rooster, or possibly just a loud man pretending to be one, announces the hour. You open your eyes. The pillow has left a mark on your face. You do not need a mirror to know this. Your spine confirms it. You sit up slowly. The pillow stares at you with indifference. You nod. You survived. Just barely. Later, as you pack your things, you consider leaving a coin behind. Not as a tip, as a warning. You think about writing on the pillow with charcoal, not worth it, run, but you don't, because someone will come after you. And they'll think, how bad can it be? And then they'll understand. They'll lie down. They'll meet the lump, and they'll know. This is not a pillow. This is a test, and very, very few pass. The innkeeper says the tub is ready. He says it with a grunt and a look that suggests you should be grateful, but also that you've made a terrible mistake. You follow him out back, around the corner, past the goats, past the well, past the mysterious patch of moss that squelches even when it hasn't rained. There it is, the tub. It's wooden, of course, wide enough to sit in, deep enough to feel vulnerable in. The wood is cracked and patched with iron bands. There's a stain on the side that looks like it once had a name. Steam curls lazily off the surface of the water. Or is it mist? You're not sure. The smell tells you it's both. This water has history, and possibly ancestors. It isn't clear. It isn't opaque either. It's that special middle tone, the color of weak tea mixed with memory and goat hair. You look closer. There are particles. They float. They settle. They reappear when disturbed. The innkeeper says, "You're third. You do the math. 2 people before you. At least 2. You wonder if one of them had boots on. You wonder if you'll come out cleaner or just changed. You are handed a rag. It's damp already. You are not sure from what. There is also a tiny sliver of something that might be soap. It smells like boiled pine cones and disappointment. You nod respectfully. These are your tools now. You are an artisan of personal hygiene. You are not confident. You look around. There's a screen, made of linen stretched across crooked stakes. It blocks you from sight if no one moves, no one breathes, and the wind is feeling polite. You step behind it. You undress slowly, because medieval undergarments are like onions, or betrayal, layered, awkward, and occasionally damp. Finally, you are bare and vulnerable. You slip into the tub. You make a sound you didn't know your body could make. The water's warm, in theory. In truth, it's lukewarm, with patches of temperature fluctuation that seem spiritually significant. One spot is hot, one is frigid, one feels like soup left out too long. You settle into the middle, something brushes your leg. You do not investigate. You grab the rag. You begin. You wash your arms, your chest. You debate whether to submerge your head. You dip your hair. It resists. You wring it out. The water darkens slightly. You don't make eye contact with it. You continue. You scrape the day off your skin, or maybe just move it around. You scrub your feet, hoping the last person did not have opinions about toes. You wash quickly, methodically. It helps. A little. You find a bucket beside the tub. You fill it from the same bath water and pour it over your head. It feels like a blessing and a curse combined. You're not cleaner exactly. You're just wet now. Differently wet. But your hair no longer crackles when you move, and your underarms are no longer hosting folklore. That's something. There is no towel. There is a cloth. It's thin, it's scratchy, it smells like previous guests, and maybe a candle that died disappointed. You pat yourself dry, and does nothing. You put your clothes on damp skin and listen as they soak up the bath water like a sponge made of disappointment and wool. You are now clean in theory, sticky in practice. You feel improved, slightly, not fresh, but less haunted. Your fingernails are visible again. Your scalp itches less. You no longer smell like a stew that failed its apprenticeship. You nod to the tub. It gurgles. You whisper thank you. You are not sure to whom. You walk back toward the inn. Wet, cold, upright, alive. The inn greets you the way it always does, with creaks and smoke and smells that don't flinch. But now you are one layer removed from the filth. One evening, newer than the others. The man across the table smells like onions and goats. You smell like soggy pine cones and questionable victory. You smile, because in a place like this, that's practically perfume. There's a moment, just as you've finally found a tolerable position on the straw mattress, just as your body begins to surrender to sleep, when your bladder taps you on the shoulder, not with urgency, with inevitability. You try to ignore it. You shift, you breathe deeply, you pretend you're in a dream where this doesn't matter. But your bladder disagrees. It insists. It reminds you had beer. Twice, maybe 3 times. The cheap kind, the wet kind. Now you must pay. And the only place to pay is the outhouse. You consider the alternatives. The chamber pot, already full, possibly sentient. Hold it, noble in theory, impossible in practice. To go outside, cold, dark, dangerous. Still you stand, because nature does not negotiate, and dignity is for daytime. You dress as if preparing for battle, boots quickly and unevenly laced, cloak thrown over your shoulders like a reluctant hug. You light a stub of candle, the wick flickers like it's afraid. You open the door, the hallway is silent. You creep. The stairs groan under your weight, announcing your journey to any ghosts who might be listening. You step out into the night. The yard is wet with dew. The moon hides behind clouds. Somewhere, a goat shifts in its sleep, and mutters something accusatory. You step carefully, avoiding puddles, avoiding eye contact with shadows. You know the outhouse is behind the stable. You walk slowly. Your candle throws light just far enough to show you how alone you are. Just far enough to make you wish it didn't. You see it. The outhouse. A lean-to. A box. A shrine to necessity. Its roof leans to one side like it's thinking of collapsing. The door hangs slightly ajar. Inside, darkness and the faint smell of centuries. You approach. You pause. You consider running back. You step forward. It is somehow both too large and too small. You cannot stand fully upright, but there's room for many smells. The hole gapes in the wooden bench like an open mouth. You don't look in. You never look in. You hover, you balance. You whisper a silent prayer to whatever gods govern plumbing. You go. The wind howls briefly outside like an opinion. As you sit, you begin to imagine. Not on purpose, but the mind wanders. What if someone else is out here? What if something is watching? What if the hole is more than a hole? You breathe deeply. You regret that immediately. You exhale shallowly. You hear something shift behind the outhouse, or above it, or within yourself. You finish your stand. You do not look again. You do not wipe, because there's nothing to wipe with. You accept. You leave. The walk back is faster. Your feet are lighter, though your soul feels slightly darker. You pass the goat again. It does not approve. You pass the patch of moss. It squelches ominously. You reach the inn. You reach your room. The candle flickers one last time and dies. You lie back down, cloak still damp from the night air. Your body relaxes. But now your thoughts swirl. Was that a shadow or a bush? Was that creaking from the wind or not? Will you need to go again? You decide you won't. Even if you do, some decisions are final. It takes time, but eventually your muscles forget. Your fears fade. The straw mattress, for all its angles, becomes acceptable again. You sink. Your last thought before sleep, at least I didn't fall in. And that, by medieval standards, makes this a very successful night. Morning arrives again, not gently, but with a grunt. You wake to the sound of someone trying and failing to cough discreetly. The room smells like boiled wool, fermented breath, and the vague bitterness of old beer, reawakened by body heat. Your mouth is dry. Your eyes are stuck. You are alive. Barely. You sit up and the mattress sighs under you like it's finally had enough. The pillow, if you can call it that, has migrated halfway down the bed and is now crumpled into a position that could legally be called resentful. You swing your legs over the side. Another day at the inn begins. There is no sunbeam pouring through your window, because your window doesn't open, and even if it did, the view would be the side of a shed and the backside of a goose. But there is a feeling in the air, a tension, a shift in the gossip pressure. It's breakfast time, and breakfast is when secrets ferment. You descend into the common room, same soot-thickening beams, same fire, now mostly ash, same benches, now sticky with yesterday. But today, the room hums with a different energy. People gathered not just for sustenance, but for stories, for updates, for scandal. You spot them immediately. The bleary-eyed victims of the previous nights. I can handle another round. One man sits hunched over his bowl of broth, staring into it like he's hoping to see a life he doesn't regret. Another holds his head in both hands, whispering to his porridge. A woman sips water with such delicacy it could be mistaken for prayer. You nod them all. You are one of them. Even if you only had 2 beers, they were medieval beers. They counted as food and punishment. The innkeeper's stew is back. Different color, same mood. It's thinner today, a watery blend of barley, onions, and possibly something that used to be a leek. You ladle it into a bowl. You take a slice of bread that could be used in self-defense. You sit. You listen. First, the whispers. Did you hear about the merchant who lost his cart to a priest in a dice game? I swear I saw the miller's wife sneaking out of the stables at dawn. The bard ran off with the stable boy, left his lute behind. Then the louder voices. It wasn't stew last night. That was regret in liquid form. I told you the outhouse was cursed. You sip your broth. You hear someone behind you murmur, "She wasn't a witch, just left-handed and opinionated." You decide that's fair. He's behind the counter, polishing a mug that will never be clean. Listening, always listening. People talk around him as if he's furniture, but he misses nothing. Occasionally he snorts. Once he laughs. Once he mutters. Same as last winter, different faces. You wonder how long he's been here, how many guests he's watched arrive, bright-eyed, boots clean, and leave with haunted expressions and mysterious rashes. You wonder if the stew knows him better than anyone. Breakfast at the inn is not just for food or gossip. It's where trades are made. A boot is repaired with someone else's strap. A knife is sharpened in exchange for a song. A man sells a rabbit that may or may not have died of natural causes. Everyone's bartering. Everyone's listening, even if they pretend not to be. You pretend too, but you're learning more than the town crier could ever publish. Then, a quiet moment. A stranger arrives, dusty cloak, hood pulled low. They drop a coin on the counter, ask for bread and a name. Everyone stiffens. The name is spoken. Half the room goes silent. The other half slowly chews. Someone says, "He's been gone 2 winters." The stranger shrugs. The innkeeper nods once, and nothing more is said. But everything changes. You think, how many secrets has this room overheard? How many lies were first told over stew? How many truths are too boring to bother repeating? You realize at this inn, history isn't in books. It's in whispers, spilled beer, scratched tables, and the look a person gives when they say, "I was never here." You finish your stew. The last bite tastes like mystery, or possibly celery root. As the room clears, you remain seated. Your stomach isn't full, but it's no longer empty. Your ears have eaten more than your mouth. And the innkeeper, still polishing the same mug, still listening. You nod to him. He nods back, just barely, because at this inn, that's how legends begin, and how lies learn to walk. There comes a moment in every guest's stay at a medieval inn, after the bad stew, after the soggy laundry, after the haunted outhouse and the goat that won't stop looking at you, where you no longer resist discomfort. You stop fighting. You start folding into it. You become one with the itchy, scratchy, oddly scented world around you. And that moment begins, quite often, with the blanket. It is not warm, it is not soft, it is not yours. It is made of rough wool that has not so much been woven as tame. It is a single piece of fabric that somehow manages to itch, retain cold, and trap smells all at once. You pull it over your shoulders and feel 1,000 tiny points of rebellion. You're convinced it has twigs in it. You're convinced it used to be part of a monk's robe, a particularly grumpy monk. The blanket holds history. It smells like damp dog, fire smoke, someone's soup accident, a sneeze from last week, and a hint of mildew that's been through something emotional. You try to avoid breathing through your nose. You try to wrap it in such a way that it doesn't touch your face. You fail. Repeatedly. There is no position in which this blanket is cooperative. If it covers your feet, your shoulders freeze. If it tucks under your chin, your legs rebel. If it wraps all around you, you feel like you're being slowly seasoned for roasting. The corners poke you. The center itches. And no matter how you arrange it, it always seems slightly damp. You lie still. You accept it. And then, the floor. Not the one you walk on. The one beneath your bed. It creaks, but not predictably. Not like step here equals sound there. Creaks like it's making commentary. When you shift. Creak. When you breathe. When you blink. Thunk. You begin to suspect the floor has opinions. You begin to worry that the floor is winning. You feel something crawl. You don't know what. You don't care. You brush it away. You feel another itch. Is it real? A memory? The ghost of fleas past? You scratch anyway. You close your eyes. You pretend. This is the moment. This is the true medieval experience. Not the battles, not the feasts, not the romance, but lying in the dark, fully clothed on a scratchy bed, wrapped in an itchy blanket, surrounded by sounds and smells that refuse to be ignored, and thinking, yes, this is fine. You stop adjusting the blanket. You stop shifting on the mattress. You let your limbs fall where they may. You let the sounds rise and pass like wind through tall grass. You let the smells blend into a single layer of at least it's familiar. And in doing so, you rest. Not comfortably, not deeply, but honestly. Like a person who knows no one is coming to rescue them from this night. And somehow, that's peaceful. Your neck hurts. Your back is stiff. The blanket is basically sandpaper. The floor creaks. Your neighbor mumbles in his sleep about cabbage and betrayal. And yet, your mind begins to float. Your eyes stop fighting. Your breathing slows. The itch fades. The air settles. You become part of the room. Just another lumpy, tired shape in the shadows. As your consciousness thins, one final thought drifts across your mind. I wonder if the blanket is scratching me, or if I'm scratching it back. You chuckle, quietly, then you sleep. Wrapped in discomfort, held by history, forgotten by time, and completely, utterly at peace with that. The rooster cries at dawn. You're not sure if it's real or a very distressed person outside the window pretending. It doesn't matter. You're awake, eventually again. You don't rise from bed. You extract yourself carefully. The blanket clings to you, not from affection, but from texture. The mattress sighs. Your joints whisper complaints. Your hair feels like it's been woven into itself overnight. The air is heavier today, as if it knows you're planning to leave. You sit there for a moment, wrapped in yesterday's smell, today's aches, and tomorrow's uncertainty. You retie your laces. You adjust your tunic, which now has a new wrinkled pattern that suggests folded by anxiety. Your belt buckle sticks. Your boots squish slightly. Everything about your body and clothing feels mildly disappointed. But you're dressed, which means you're halfway out. You step into the common room for one final bowl of innkeeper stew. It is miraculously the same as yesterday. Same color, same weight, same chunk in the middle. You don't ask, you eat it silently. Others are also eating silently. One man chews like he's counting every bite as penance. Someone else is using bread as a spoon. The innkeeper wipes his hands on the same cloth he used yesterday, maybe the same cloth from every yesterday. You nod to him. He grunts. This is your goodbye. The innkeeper names the price. It's both too high and suspiciously low. You pay. You're not sure what you paid for. The stew, the bed, the mosquito bites, the memories. You don't ask for a receipt. You don't want a paper trail. You do want a bath, but not here. You return upstairs. One last time. The room is unchanged. Still musty, still slightly damp, still whispering secrets into the wood. You look at the bed. You say nothing. You nod at the pillow. Does not nod back. You collect your things. You don't double-check anything. If it's lost here, it belongs here now. You step out into the hallway, down the stairs, past the fire which is trying its best, out the door, into the morning. The outside air hits you. Different. It tastes like trees and sky and not you breathe deeply, then pause, because you've brought the smell with you. It clings to your cloak, your boots, your very soul. You are, whether you like it or not, a part of the inn now, and it is a part of you. The road stretches ahead. Muddy, as usual. You begin walking, one step at a time. Your legs remember the path. Your nose remembers the stew. Your skin remembers the blanket. You smile, sort of, because you survived. As you walk, you think about the man who talked in his sleep, about the woman who beat everyone at insult dueling, about the mysterious stain in the corner of your room, about the outhouse and the wind that visited there. You think about how a place can be awful and perfect at the same time, how discomfort can carve memories sharper than luxury ever could. You've learned how to sleep in your boots, how to distinguish 3 types of snoring, how not to ask questions about stew, how to scrub yourself with a rag of unknown origin, and how to leave a place knowing you'll always carry a little of it with you. The sky softens. The world brightens. You feel a little lighter with every step, but even as the wind catches your cloak and the warmth returns to your fingers, a hint of that inn, the smoke, the sweat, the soup, remains. You wrinkle your nose. You smile again, because you know, no matter how far you walk, You'll smell like this place for at least 3 more days, maybe longer, probably forever. You've left the inn behind, physically at least. The building is a smudge on the horizon now, a crooked roof and a chimney that exhales smoke like it's tired of trying. But it isn't really gone. It's still in your nose, still in your boots, still folded into the lines of your clothes and the creases of your memory. You walk and you think, because something about that inn has changed you. Just a little, just enough. You were miserable. Let's not sugarcoat it. You slept on a bed made of straw and regret. You washed yourself in water that had seen more strangers than a village gossip. You shared space, breath, and chamber pots with men who snored like earthquakes and smelled like boiled onions. And yet, you miss it. Not in a way that makes you want to go back, no, that would be madness. But in a way that makes you feel connected. To dirt, to discomfort, to being human. There's something to be said about the way you smell now. It's no longer just bad. It's specific. Blend of smoke, old stew, unwashed wool, floorboard dust, and faintly, hopefully, soap made from lie and optimism. You smell like a lived-in moment, like you've been through something. And in a world obsessed with perfection, maybe that's sacred. Maybe the best memories are the ones you don't want to relive, but never want to forget. You remember the bed that barely qualified, the pillow that staged a coup, the blanket that scratched your soul, the stool that wobbled like it had second thoughts. But each of those things taught you something. About balance, about patience, about lowering expectations so far that surprise feels like joy. And maybe that's the secret to surviving medieval travel. Not resisting discomfort, but partnering with it. Letting it teach you. Letting it remind you that luxury is temporary, but splinters are forever. You understand why people told stories around the fire. It wasn't just warmth. It was survival. You understand why beer was breakfast. Not for fun, for calories. You understand why nobody wanted to share a room with someone new, and yet everyone did. Because in that world, privacy was a myth and companionship was currency. You understand why the innkeeper never smiled, and why it meant something when he did. And you understand that no one truly sleeps in a medieval inn. They just rest until something smells weird. As you continue down the path, you catch your reflection in a puddle. Your face is dirty. Your hair is confused. Your tunic is stained in places you can't identify. But your eyes have seen things. They've watched a bard lose a drinking contest to a goat. They've witnessed a stew that may have contained an entire history of errors. They've looked into the black abyss of a chamber pot and come out the other side. You are wiser now, not smarter, just harder to surprise. You'd say, a medieval inn doesn't offer rest. It offers revelation. It strips away vanity. It rubs your patience raw. It teaches you to sleep in noise, greet in mystery, to bathe in someone else's shadow, and to emerge on the other side smelling like firewood and choices. Tonight, when you find yourself back in your own bed, maybe softer, maybe cleaner, you'll notice something. A quiet, a stillness, a faint absence of goats. And you'll miss it, just a little, because discomfort is a kind of teacher. And you, unwilling student though you were, have graduated with honors in not crying when your pillow is full of rocks, navigating outhouses by candlelight, and falling asleep while someone next to you whistles through his nose. Well done, not in the inn, not in the stink, but in your own space, carrying the memory. And as your breath deepens and your limbs relax, you smile because you know, no matter where you rest tonight, you've survived a medieval inn, and nothing, not even a goose with attitude, can take that away. Good night, and may your pillow be soft, your blanket kind, and your stew at the very least identifiable.